I think Steven's the only one in this group that has not been to Comic-Con. So what do those laughs mean? Is there advice that you can give him?
Breathe. Just don't laugh at Wonder Woman. He's the guy. Like,
yeah.
No.
Do you have any personal space issues?
Well, I wasn't nervous about Comic-Con, except as it gets closer, everyone keeps telling me that it's just, they're like, get ready. Like, for what?
It is
like,
a
explain.
big deal.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's also, it's the most engaged audience you're ever going to come across in your life, truly.
Okay.
Educated, too.
Yeah,
like
passionate.
Like great questions. And
in an odd way, because your show hasn't come on the air yet.
Yeah.
I think
we're screening the entire thing before our panel. It's going to be exciting.
But even, like you're, I mean, I'm certainly on Fringe, I experienced this. I mean, they digest these shows and live them in a way that I've never come across before. So next year, when you go back, it'll be a different experience. But it's also just full on. I mean, all sorts of awkward-looking babies get made that weekend.
With tapes.
Yeah.
I think you like live in a bubble when you're doing your show.
Yeah.
So then when you're in front of thousands of people that actually watch and support it, it gives you like new energy to go back to work the next day.
It's so validating.
Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, it can be fun because, as everyone says, it's like they're big fans of yours, or they know your history, or they want to kind of get engaged with what you're doing, and they're very well versed in, you know, and if they're not, they want to be, and they ask great questions.
Yeah, totally.
You kind of have to be on your toes.
We're getting it from a couple of ways too, because we have the comic book audience, but we also have archery enthusiasts.
Oh, wow.
And they're equally
intense.
Yes. Yeah. Don't have bad form. They all hate Orlando Bloom.
That's awesome.
Like they're all really mad at him. They call bad archery Legolosing.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure you'll learn some vocabulary, some new vocabulary while you're out there as well.
My advice would be, especially because your show has not yet come out, to take 2 hours and walk around the convention center. Like amongst the fans, and don't take a security guard because they'll tell you that you must have a bodyguard. The thing is, that's what draws attention. Right. Like last year when we were with bodyguards, that's when, and our show had not yet come out, that you know, there were this sort of built-in fans because I'm on a fairy tale show. And having the security guards is what drew the attention.
You wear a mask, too.
Have any of you done the mask thing?
Be Darth Vader.
Everybody else is in a mask, so you might as well.
You might as well. That would be kind of awesome.
Yeah.
If I see a buff Green Arrow walking around Comic-Con, I'm going to know it's you.
Good. Actually, I'm trying to get them. I want to the suit jacket is just like a leather jacket, so I'm trying to convince them to just let me wear it for the panel or something like that. Just wear it around a little bit.
There's no bridge too geeky. Like
I'm excited because
No fashion faux pas there.
You cannot.
I did read.
Except for the guys dressed like Wonder Woman.
I read comics a little bit growing up, but the cool thing for me is that my sister is getting married on July 6th, and she's in Mexico. She's spending a couple extra days there, and then she and her husband, he is the biggest comic book fan that I know, and they're starting their honeymoon at Comic-Con.
Oh my Lord.
With me. He's never been.
That's crazy.
So that's the exciting thing for me. We'll walk around with him. Yeah.
He's gonna freak out.
On that note, and it could be Comic-Con or elsewhere, what's the strangest or most interesting fan interaction that you guys have had?
We shoot in Long Beach a lot, so in the same places, so a lot of the same people come out all the time and get braver and braver. And it hasn't happened to me, but it's happened to Michael, or people will come up and say, well, you act like you're stabbing me, and they'll pull out a kitchen knife, or they'll pull out like chainsaws and hammers and crazy things and ask him to sign those things.
I don't think any of us can beat that story.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, will you kill me? People ask me to cuss at them a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
And do you?
Sometimes. Depends on what kind of mood I'm in.
I'm doing this for free.
I get everything from like socks, because Booth wears socks, like crazy socks, so they all want they give me socks. I walk away with like tons of socks. All different striped socks and crazy socks.
I'll take socks over kitchen.
Some of them want to just take off their socks and give me their own socks, which is kind of a little strange.
You should talk to the writers and ask them to let your character wear Rolexes, and people are like, take it off.
Nice. That'd be nice, right? That's a good move. I should do that. I mean, I don't know. I think they're all, coming from a cult show and a cult environment, I've gotten everything from like, can you bite me, being a vampire, here's some plastic teeth. I get like strange kind of requests. I remember being at Comic-Con in '99 when first started, and it was a small venue, and it was bizarre to see these these interesting fans and people come out and really support you, but there were some that were just a little too into it, you know? I mean, I think you just kind of take them for what they are and kind of just keep a safe distance. I've always been afraid like someone's going to attack you, you know, like jump through the crowd or...
Yeah,
like,
nobody
you know.
wants to be the guy who gets stabbed at Comic-Con.
They really
I'm so happy to be on a Disney show right now.
Oh my God.
You know, actually, there was a guy in our panel, somebody stabbed somebody with a Bic.
No.
Because people sit for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours waiting on these seats, and they basically squat, right? They'll sit through 4 or 5 panels they don't want to watch, and just to get to the one that they do. And in our hall, somebody got stabbed with a Bic. I don't know if it because they were waiting on Fringe or something after us. But
Big
there was,
pen.
Yeah, we were behind. And they're like, "You can't go out now. There's been an incident." Like, what's the incident? Like stabbing by Bic. What? Yeah, they had to drag him out, shut the hall down. So don't be that guy. You're not going to sleep between now and Comic-Con.
Like presents or objects, and you're kind of like,
yeah,
we don't know what exactly that is, and it's, you know, it can be anything, candles or like.
The baby thing I always find a little bit weird too. Like, here, hold my infant. I'm like, that's not a good idea at all. Yeah.
Someone sent me 2 knives to my house too, and how they got my address I don't know, but 2 really big knives. A sailor. I wrote him a letter and said thanks for your service, but I'm not going to sign the knives.
And please don't.
And this is not really my address.
They're nice. Well, I didn't want to put them back in the mail. I don't know what the rules are there.
How about you, Lucy? Have you had an interesting fan interaction?
I've had some interesting incidents where people have requested physical violence against them by me, which they seemingly would enjoy a great deal, that I did not make myself available to. A lot of times at interviews, they'll ask me to like spank them and do things to them.
What is that from?
Like, and it's on cameras. I think it's just from a lot of, you know, a collection of, you know, from Payback all the way through, you know, a lot of the action movies that I've done, and sort of they connect. They connect me with that, with that dominatrix-y vibe, and I've had some people say that they named their child after me, their babies, like Lucy Liu. Just like, this is an interesting name for a baby when, you know, there are different. It's, you know, you don't really know what this.
Smith. Nice
Lucy Liu, yeah. I mean, it's funny because, you know, we're just doing our jobs and we're having a good time at it or trying to make it interesting, and people really, it sends something special to them, and they sort of connect to it, and then they make it into something a lot deeper that can, for a lot of other people, can be a little bit scary. And you know, it's just weird because it's alarming when you go to an interview and somebody asks you to like spank them or to smack them. I don't know, it's just too much, you know?
I've gotten tattoos. They come up in like forearms. Their whole back is like me tattooed on their back.
No. Wow,
it's pretty crazy. Yeah. I mean, you kind of look at it and you're like, really? It's a big choice right there. It's like very heavy.
Well, there's that famous Saturday Night Live skit with William Shatner where he, you know, says to the Star Trek fans, "Get a life." Have you ever thought about, like, not in that public of a setting, but have you ever thought about sort of like shaking up some of these super fans and being like, "Listen, man, you know, gotta go easy on this"?
No, I haven't. I mean, I think it's as long as they're responsible and having a good time. I mean, for them, it's really a fantasy world, and like you were saying, they're so invested in your character that they take it to a degree of playing their own world in their house or wherever they may do that. And as long as they're responsible and they're not hurting anyone, I would never like tell them to stop.
I think it's awesome that, you know, that everybody has a thing. In fact, even though Comic-Con's so big now, one of the things that I think is so cool about the Comic-Con experience is it gives an outlet for, you know, when we were all growing up, if you were a comic book fan or a sci-fi nerd or, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, that was all in the basement. Like nobody ever talked about that because it wasn't cool. But this gives an avenue, a venue for them to not only meet like-minded people, but just to completely express themselves in any way that they want. And it runs the gamut from like bad spandex to the most like minute knowledge of really, really random bits of trivia from TV shows or games or whatever it is. I think that's kind of awesome. I mean, nobody's ever asked me to spank them in an interview, so that's less awesome.
You've got time.
Yeah, exactly. I have something to look up to, something to look forward to.
I
heard that there's prom too. I heard there's like nerd prom. something called Nerd Prom.
Yeah,
There's a
Isn't that one
party.
day as a whole?
Yeah.
There's a party that they call
That's
that.
really cool.
Yeah.
I can't believe I haven't been invited.
Yeah, exactly. Now it brings back all those terrible memories from high school. Like, great, I didn't get invited to that prom either. I better not be because he's my boss.
Yeah, I
and if he
know.
hasn't
That's
invited
why.
me,
Well, maybe it was
embarrassing.
not. Maybe it's not it.
Who showed up when you did your PaceyCon thing?
Who showed up?
Yeah, like who were they all Dawson's Creek fans or were they?
Oh no,
You had your own con?
Wow.
I sort of like, what would you call it? I photobombed Comic-Con one year as Pacey.
Awesome.
But to see Comic-Con fans try to like put together a Dawson's Creek character in Comic-Con, that's one place that they don't know. Like people are just like, who are you? What is this music? Stop it.
Cheryl Cole.
Yeah,
was
no
not
Wookiee, no
popular.
love. Yeah, so I don't think anybody showed up, but they were definitely confused by what the fuck was going on. I did get arrested, which is always the high water mark for me.
Really?
Trying to bust into Comic-Con, the security guard was
I remember
not
that. Yeah,
having
that was the big news.
Yeah.
I remember showing up. It's like you got arrested. I'm
Yeah.
like, what did you get busted for? I'm like, I'll bail him out. What's the problem?
down
You
to,
just tried to get into Hall
I
H
tried
or
to-
something?
I let myself in, and they took me down to. They have a fake jail. They have a jail. At the
With
bottom of
fake
the convention
characters.
So the
Dick
Wonder
Tracy's
Woman?
down there.
What's fake about it? Yeah.
Well, because they're rent-a cops, not real cops, so they can't really arrest you, but they just sort of like detain you and sequester you from the rest of the Comic-Con.
I can't believe this is just coming up. I feel like
And what other kind of people were there?
In jail.
There was nobody in jail.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
In a place
Wonder Woman
where you're
wasn't
allowed
there.
to carry swords and be in spandex, there really is not much you can do
you
apparently
hate
other
spandex. That's twice that's come up.
don't lie. You've seen some bad spandex there.
Yeah.
It's so true. People with bags bigger than them is a big
that's-
thing.
yes.
And then spandex in places it should never go.
Yeah.
So you obviously are on this heavily serialized genre show, and as are many of you. As you think about sort of what's next, is this a world you want to go back into? Or are you you had your fill, you've done your years of Comic-Con and this kind of intense audience?
I mean, I think once the story of Fringe is done, Fringe itself will be over. But the thing, you'll experience this more next year. Truly the coolest part of the entire experience, at least for me, is that because that audience is so passionate and intense, and the people who bother to show up and wait all those hours to be at the panels, it's a really rare thing for an actor to be able to interact with the people who are, taking in whatever the performance is, be it a TV show or a film, at the time that it's happening. Normally our job is done, and then if there's any response or feedback, you see sort of afterwards as people take it into their lives or digest it however they do. But when you're actually on these shows and you go back to Comic-Con as the thing is happening, like you said, it's quite invigorating to see how intense the people who self-select for that show, how much it means to them and how deeply they're willing to spend time thinking and sort of absorbing those shows. So for that, I would happily do that. I mean, that part of the Comic-Con and sci-fi, world has actually been incredibly rewarding. It's a really rich experience.
Would you do another genre show?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. We're all actors here, but I don't know any actor who would ever say, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
I would never work in that X, Y, or Z ever again.
But there are risks. I mean, there are certainly advantages and disadvantages, and I think having knives at your house probably falls in the category of disadvantage.
Yeah.
Or perhaps
Yeah.
But you mean like
they were nice knives.
You mean like being typecast?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thought that the whole notion of being typecast was a little bit ridiculous because to get typecast you have to work
Yeah.
a bunch, which is the goal.
You're
Like that's our goal.
frustrated with
Oh, you're
repeatedly playing
typecast.
the
Yeah,
same
great.
character.
That means that you've been successful,
Yeah.
right? You don't get typecast by being bad at something. You get typecast because you do it and you do it well.
Let's be real here. I mean, we have a guy sitting here who is kind of one of the gods in these halls, and it didn't slow you down at all from, I agree with you, like, if you're working, it's not typecasting, but also good for anybody for creating a character or being a part of a show or a film that creates a character that leaves a mark.
Yep.
Right? And if you're bad and you can't do anything else, then maybe you should be so lucky as to be typecast. But if you're good and you keep on changing and growing, then good for you.
Exactly right.
Is there a clear hierarchy down there? I mean, yes.
Oh, hell yeah. You can be modest, but oh, hell yes.
No, I was really fortunate. I mean, I came into a great show and a great opportunity with Joss, and you know what? I think at that time, really was just for me just wanting to work, you know, and being successful was just the hard work that we put into the show, and then getting your own spin-off series and trying to make that happen, and you know, the ups and the downs of it. And for me, it was really just all about doing the work, you know, and you obviously you go to Comic-Con and people are so infatuated with your character because it's an ethereal character. The guy doesn't age, he's a vampire, and he can give you, you know, eternal love for forever. I mean, look at the vampire shows today, they've just exploded. I mean, from True Blood to, you know, the Twilight series. I mean, it's massive. Yeah. And we were kind of doing that in '99, but before that, there were other people doing it. So, I mean, for me, it was always about just having a good time and working, and, you know, and opening other doors in order to meet other showrunners to do a show like Bones, and to play a character like Booth, who is extremely different than a guy who doesn't fly around or doesn't, you know, burn up when he goes out in the sun. So, I mean, for me, it's always been just really about working, having fun, and I never really believed in the typecasting thing. I mean, I think it's just really, you're working, you know, and people will always remember me for that character. It was a great character. It was a great moment. I was very fortunate, and, you know, I embrace that. Something I embrace.
Do you guys have an idea, or do you have a preference for how your show ends?
Oh, wow. I do. I kind of think. Well, I mean, I think everybody wants to see Booth and Brennan together. I mean, now she's on the run now, so I mean, I think for me it would be great to just. I mean, I always loved the Poltergeist ending where he just put the TV out and closed the door. It'd be great to see the two of us in a motel and just close the door in the middle of nowhere and just put the "Do Not Disturb" sign on. And that would be the end of the series. Who knows what really would happen?
That would probably not happen on Fringe. So what? Do you have an idea of how you'd like to see it end?
I do. My show being what it is, I can't tell you. But because this is our last season, we have a really distinct, what I hope people will think is but I think is a very cool wrapping up of the entire series.
So you've been told how it's going to end.
This year, Joel Wyman, who's our executive producer, has been kind of shockingly forthcoming, because our show is pretty impenetrable usually, but this is the last year. He's like, I guess it's a new leaf. He was like, I want everybody engaged. I want everybody to know exactly what they're doing. It's because we're only doing 13 episodes, the story itself is really finite. So there's sort of, you know, you're going to start here, then you go there, then you go here, and then we're done. So he brought everybody in, and so I have a really good idea, I think, of where the show's.
You're not leaving this room until.
What is
Going back to jail.
And UFO involved?
There's lots. It's big. It's big, and then it's sort of, you know, in the way, because there's no good way ever to end the show, because you're not necessarily going to piss somebody off, because part of what's fun about a television show is that people get to fill in the gaps for themselves of who these characters are and the stories that we don't get to see. But once you come to an ending, you sort of tell them where those characters finish up. That being said, I think, you know, it's a big, massive sci-fi set piece, the ending, but with a really important and sort of finale-esque emotional center to it. I sound like a producer now, but it is true.
Did you get to weigh in on?
Yeah, like I said, he's been incredibly forthcoming, but also open. I think all the actors, you live with these characters for so long, we all have our ideas of who we want these people to be, or, you know, where we'd like to see them end up. And, you know, I think, not just for myself, I think for everybody, he was more than willing this year to listen just for ideas, to sort of glean where everybody is and where they want the characters to finish up. Because we know it's a really unusual thing to know going into the last year. So there's no more, you don't have to leave any doors open, you don't have to leave this is it, that's the end. And it's really very freeing.
Do you have ideas about how Dexter should end?
I do, but I don't want to say them because I have a infinitesimal hope that maybe it'll happen that way. It would require that my character lives. So we'll see.
One other thing, just about, you know, like you guys have new shows, just one season and fresh on the air, and you're coming on us in this fall. I mean, when you guys are launching a show, do you think about the audience, like who you think the audience is for your show, and then does it always match? The question is, like, you know, when you have a new show, do you say, this is the kind of person who's going to like this show? And in your experience, has it always matched that?
I don't know, because I've been a sophomore on a lot of the shows. I mean, for Ally McBeal, I came in the second season, and so they already kind of had an audience.
Right.
A lot of women, I think, and a lot of, it was, you know, at the time, it was a very intriguing show because they had a green screen of a, you know, dancing baby. I mean, if you look at it, the technology now, it's completely different, you know, and so it's kind of funny to think that that was such a huge thing, and now you watch it and be like, this is not a big deal. But at the time, it was immense. I mean, Callista Flockhart was on the cover of Time magazine, and it was a very big feminist movement.
Right.
You know, her and I had our first kiss on, you know, 2 women kissing on screen. It was a big deal, you know. And then for like Dirty Sexy Money, I came in the second season also, and Kashmir Mafia was the first season, but then there was the writer's strike, so we only did like 7 episodes. But this would be interesting because there's a lot of history behind Sherlock Holmes and Watson, and so I'm sure there's going to be a great deal of opinions about the fact that we're remaking it and we're naming the characters Holmes and Watson, and I'm playing a female Watson, and, you know, what's the deal with that? And, you know, some people are going to be excited that we're turning it on its head, and some people are going to be kind of shaking their heads like this is a bad idea. I mean, the thing is, when you go into anything, everyone has an opinion. And we did Charlie's Angels, everyone's like, it's going to be a huge flop, it's a disaster, it's a big mistake. And all I could think about was, wow, this is amazing because they have cast an Asian person as one of the angels. And when I grew up, you know, it was the idea that it's all Caucasian. So that was, for me, like, who cares about anything else, you know? And for me, this time, it's about that Watson is a female. And a lot of people who are of ethnic background are coming up to me and saying, it's so great that you're playing Watson and you're representing a big, you know, minority section of actors and people in the world. And nowadays, if you look at people, if you look at children, they're all mixed. Like, there's never just a child that look, oh, that's clearly an Irish child with red hair. Or, you know, they're all mixed. They look like half this and half that. So I think eventually it's going to be a moot point, but right now it is still something that's quite highlighted and specific. But I don't know in terms of audience. I'm always surprised. I'm also surprised that when Kill Bill came out, there were children running up and saying, oh, I loved you in Kill Bill. I'm like, oh my God, it's too violent for you to be seen. Like, how old are you? He was like, I'm 8 and 9. I thought, that's incredibly big. Yeah, and the parents were like, he's a huge fan. I'm like, you shouldn't be watching this. But now, I mean, everything is... Respect My Baby is available on the internet. I mean, pornography, all of these things, like, children are growing up fast. And at the time, I think, there was a big story about, you know, about Clinton and the cigar and Monica Lewinsky, and like children were being exposed to things that they shouldn't have been exposed to. Now you can't stop that information. That was a big deal then, but now you want to block your children from having that accessibility on the internet. But then they have phones because they go to school, and if there's an emergency or whatever, they can do whatever they want, you know. And so kids are growing up much faster now. So you just don't know who's going to be. Yet we're at a 10 o'clock slot on a Thursday night. It's a coveted spot for sure, but it doesn't mean that that's, you know, it's that only older people are going to watch it. And I think they want people that are interested in the show and going to support it to watch it. But I don't know, like some shows that have an older crowd watching it, they're not interested, they just cancel it right away, you know. It's difficult.
Do you feel pressure playing a comic book character? It sort of has its own fan base?
No, the only pressure that I only felt pressure once during the pilot, because other than, I shot 10 episodes of Hung, but this was like the first lead that I've done. The only time that I ever felt pressure was when we did our hair and makeup tests. And it's sort of the, you know, first day of school for everybody. You know, all the different departments come, and when we were pulling up to the studios in just outside of BC, excuse me, just outside of Vancouver, I'm like, oh my God, look at all the cars. I'm like, we're all here. The pilot won't get picked up if I do a bad job. And I was scared for like a minute, and then it was okay. And then one of my co-stars, he said to me, he's like, you know, he lives in England, and he wanted his boys to relocate to Vancouver and have a different educational opportunity and see a different part of the world, and he wanted to move his family. And so I was thinking about that, and I felt a little bit of pressure there. But no, I really, really trusted David Nutter, who directed the pilot, and Andrew Kreisberg and Mark Guggenheim. They've been involved with the Green Arrow comic book character, and Jeff Johns was there. He's like the Don Draper of DC Comics, and he's, you know, he's signing off on everything. And so No, I trust those guys implicitly.
What does that entail, like a consultant like that? What does he say? What are some of the things, oh, he would never do that, but yes, he would do that?
No, he was mainly hanging around being like, this is so cool. You know what I mean? Like, we have a bunch of little Easter eggs in the pilot, and you know, on the in the opening of it, we flashed to a DC character called Deathstroke that has never, I don't think it's ever been on television before. So just like, it just flashed to his mask, which is like a big signature, and he was just pumped. Like, he's really excited. He's going to write an episode, and the whole thing was really collaborative. It was nice. No pressure. I'm just excited to read episode 2. That's how I think. That's how I knew that. You know, I felt like we did a good job, because when we finished, more than wanting the show to get picked up or anything like that, I just wanted to read the second episode. I wanted to see what's going to happen. So.
And I have to ask, David, you made a little news a couple of weeks back with your I'm going to be a free agent.
Oh, to the Twitter people?
Oh, to the Twitter people,
That's a
yes.
different world, isn't it?
It is, but it moves into the non-Twitter people. Are you, I mean, is your plan to come back to the show next year if it gets picked up? What is your plan?
Well, I mean, I think I'm such a sports fan, so I mean, in relativity, I mean, I'm like, listen, it really created a buzz. I mean, thinking about as an artist or an actor, you always have to keep all of your options open. I think we all love what we do, and we love the work. I think there also comes a time when we have to be responsible for our own, like, where we would like to go next. And I think we have a voice that I think we can use Twitter in a responsible way. And whereas I'd like to poke fun a lot of times with the Twitter people, and they just go bonkers. But I think that it's important for an actor to have a strong voice amongst the people of, you know, whoever you're working for, whether it's with a network or a studio. You know, you've fulfilled a contract. You've been there. You've been on time. You've done everything they've asked you to do. And there are a lot of innuendos and small things that come along the way that you don't do for certain reasons. You know, it's a card game sometimes. Would I love to come back to the show? Yes. I mean, I never said that I was not going to be coming back. I always said that the options are always open, which is the truth. So I think people take things and they twist them a bit out of context, and they make it a little bit bigger than what it really is. But it sure was a fun day.
How long did it take Fox to find you after that tweet?
They didn't. I mean, I think that they're just, oh, Boreanaz is doing that again. I mean, look, hey, you know, they didn't say anything to me. I mean, I didn't say anything that was out of context or anything that crossed the line. So, you know, I was just having fun.
When you talk about sort of other roles, is there a character or a show that each of you, if you could switch places with someone else acting on TV today, who would it be and what role?
I always want to play the heavy in your show. Like, I've always wanted to play villains, so it's kind of ironic that I'm doing the opposite of that. But, like, I want to play the crazy villain in Dexter, clearly. That's, yeah.
You got one more year.
Really? Oh, man,
Turns out
next year?
he's the one that sent you the knives.
Oh, man. Really? Yeah, sorry. It was going to come up eventually. I sent you the knives here. I don't know how I got your address, but yeah.
Ginny, what about you?
I would love to take over Maggie Smith's role in Downton Abbey.
Oh my gosh, I was just going to say a role in Downton Abbey would be amazing.
Everybody
I love
wants to
that
do
show.
that. I want to do it. I want to be the
You want to be Maggie Smith in Downton Abbey.
I tweeted that. Like, I wanted to be the cowboy that comes and rescues the American cowboy that causes the problem.
So
Nice.
great.
I want to be a girl on Girls.
Oh, that's a really good
When
show,
I'm done
too.
with this, I feel like doing this.
What is that?
A girl. Oh, come on. Oh, that sounded bad when
I know.
Girls. I want to be one of the girls on the show Girls.
Now we know what the headline's going to be when they put this video
I like
online.
girl on girl.
I like the Adam character.
Just want
Yeah, yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
And the
next
boyfriend, my God.
douchey boyfriend.
So good.
What about you, Josh?
Do you want to be a girl on Girls?
I would like to be girl on girl too.
Maggie Smith.
I would like to be on. No. I'd like to be on Breaking Bad, actually.
Yeah.
I love that show. But you know, it's an odd question because, truthfully, I wouldn't want to replace anybody on any of the shows that I really like, because I really like them. But yeah, if I had my pick of shows to work on, it would certainly be on Breaking Bad, even though I can't.
Are you sticking with Downton Abbey?
No, I don't. I agree with what you're saying. I think that everyone's cast for specific reasons, and they create a character.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to step in anybody else's shoes because they've created such a great character and it's part of the story. I think for me it's something new and that's character driven. I always thought that I think characters are more interesting than sometimes than the plot. I think with Bones it always has been for us from the beginning. Since we shot the pilot, it was about the relationship and about the characters and not about the drama or the body. And, you know, like, let's turn it into the next X-Files. It's like, well, we didn't want to do that. We really put ourselves up there and said we continue to do character work with it. And to me, it's really about, I would want to do something new and something interesting. I wouldn't want to replace anybody, you know. I think that it's
Just for fun.
Yeah.
We would never take Maggie Smith out, really. But
Yeah,
she's
so
amazing.
next fall on
We
Fox,
just admire
Vampire FBI.
Yeah, right. Free agent guy.
It's totally new.
The whole sports show.
He's a free
sports
agent,
show.
vampire, FBI agent. It's something you haven't ever done before.
What's the part that if you look back, what's the part that got away? The part you wished you had either tried out, auditioned for, read for, taken?
Oh my lord,
That's a book.
yeah.
But in a weird way, they never get away because you end up where you are, and hopefully you like where you
Sure.
are. And for 4 minutes or whatever, however long it takes you to audition, it is yours. So I never feel like I lost one. I just feel like,
But perhaps you didn't read. I mean, your names. You all have names that are thrown around for these projects regularly.
Really? What have you heard?
I'd like to know about those too. Really? What studio are you talking to?
Is there a part you guys wish you had
Oh my lord.
had moved forward with?
I mean, I really do have a long list, but it's while I know that I did not see things in certain roles that other actresses saw in those roles, and those roles clearly did very good things for those actresses, and that part I've regretted not making certain choices based on opportunities that were then further made available for the actresses who took the parts. But at the same time, I've had to always check in with myself and say, but I didn't see the potential there. I didn't see how rich those characters would be, meaning I would have sucked ass. Like I could not have gotten where those actresses, you know, have gone with those roles because I didn't see it.
Yeah. In much the same way that you wouldn't want to replace somebody, you know, you wouldn't actually want to replace Maggie Smith because
Right, exactly.
it's the only ones that really bother me are the roles where I see somebody be not very good, and I go, I could be just as not good as that guy. Like,
There was, I got really close on Spartacus, and I was upset that I didn't get that only because it just would have been so cool, right? Like, you're watching it, and also, the other unfortunate thing is, once you get that close, I can't watch the show and enjoy it anymore. So it's like, I'm denied the opportunity to watch a show that I really enjoy, because I just, you watch it for a second.
Just think about what your diet would have been.
yeah.
Exactly what it is right now.
Intake, right? It's kind of really low.
Oh, man.
But is that the same for all of you? Can you watch things that you didn't get?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I mean,
truly, I don't know about everybody else's batting average, but if you get 2 out of every 10 jobs, you're doing really
great.
well.
You're doing
So
great.
if you couldn't watch things that you didn't get, you would
have nothing to watch.
You'd be-
Oh, man. Yes. I'll eventually fire through Spartacus on DVD one day.
even if there is something like, even if someone got a part or that you had coveted for a moment or something, and you felt like you had missed something, you can still steal it. You can still steal the thing that you missed. It's always a learning. Who cares if you got the part and you learned it on set? You learn it after the fact. And if it opens up your thinking, you still didn't lose the part.
That's
You know what I mean?
awesome.
Yeah. That's a really
You should be my life
unusually
coach.
healthy way of thinking about things. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, usually
For me, it's just depression and alcoholism. But I like your way better.
I told my therapist recently I don't drink enough. I need to try to drink more.
I usually book a job after a terrible audition. Like there's usually I have an awful one, and I just go, oh, this is stupid. What am I doing?
Or you stop trying so
Then you
hard.
refocus, and then you go.
You just,
So, I mean, I'm sure we've all had this experience where you walk out of a room and you're like, well, that sucked. I'm never going to hear from those people again. They might not even ever bring me in. And then 10 minutes later, it's like, congratulations, you got the job. When I auditioned for Dawson's Creek, one of the guys in the audition fell asleep.
Oh, man.
At the studio level. Literally, like, I'm in the middle of reading, this guy's like... And I'm like, okay, well, clearly I'm not getting this job. Yeah, like actually nodded out and started snoring in the middle of the
Maybe you had a
audition.
great dream.
Yeah.
He woke up and you were there.
I love it. It's great. You're a beautiful kid. You're wonderful.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
Anyone else
you
have
never
any
know.
stories? Well, I mean, perhaps not falling asleep, but any other
Auditioning
audition?
stories?
Yeah.
Oh,
Every
horror.
test, every studio
Before.
test, I pack a cooler. I pack food. I pack like.
Again, with the life coaching. You are hired.
So when the competition sits down, I'm like, do you want anything? Is your blood sugar low? Like I feel like I'm collecting good karma. My
Secretly,
blood
they're
sugar
all
is not
filled with
going to
Well, so you
drop.
come into the door with a cooler?
Yeah, I like no, because they're going to keep
love
you
that.
waiting
What a
forever
beer.
and ever. I don't know, it just keeps it interesting. That's my.
So much nicer than
trick.
people usually are in those things. Particularly girls. Girls are rough on each other, man.
They are. Whether you're an actor or not, poor girls. God.
I've been told, and this breaks my heart, I've been told that I am not a pleasant person to audition with, whereas...
I've auditioned with you.
Well, and this is probably why I honestly don't remember it, is because I put on headphones.
I could have told you that.
And I go, because I'm A, terrified, B, I don't want to affect anyone else, C, I don't want anyone else affecting me, and so I, like, seriously go into, like, I don't know, like, I hermit inside myself. I don't know who I'm sitting in rooms with, and I mean, because people do visit, but I hear girls throwing each other. I just never want to be a part of that kind of thing. So what I'm trying to do is be courteous and keep myself focused. But apparently,
Coming off as a
I'm really unpleasant. It's really unpleasant because I seem so cold.
I never would have said that. Having auditioned with you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
There's a guy on your show that I worked with way back in the Dawson's Creek days named Ian Bailey.
Oh, yeah.
Who, because we're the same age, we auditioned for a lot of things together over the course of the years. And I consider him a friend, and he's a really nice guy. So after, I don't know, like 10 or 15 auditions over the course of years, finally I walk into a room, and he looks at me and he goes, just talk to me afterwards. He's like, you're so distracting. Because I go the opposite way when I get nervous. I'm like, hey, and I want to talk and get all the nerves out. And he's like, I can't deal with you right now. Just talk to me afterwards.
Well, you're good friends, so you can say that, and he'll be, and you'll laugh.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
you know,
It was
and then
funny.
you can
So I went and ruined somebody
carouse
else's
with him
day.
later.
For what it's worth,
Yes.
seeing you at that audition with your iPhone and you're sitting in your car for quite a long time. It was nothing but respect.
Oh,
Like,
good.
Did you have a cooler back then when you were with her?
It wasn't a studio.
Or like,
It wasn't a studio.
Oh, okay.
That's
I think
only for
that's
studio
hilarious.
tests.
I've never heard of that. You actually come in with a cooler.
Yeah.
But I'm
For all the
totally
people
stealing
that are
it.
watching you.
No. It's for. I come in with the cooler because I know they're going to keep me waiting forever.
So when you go in the room, though, you leave the
I'll leave
cooler
the cooler
outside.
I'll leave the cooler
All right,
outside.
okay. I thought you brought the whole
I mean, if it
cooler
had wheels
in,
on it,
like
I
you
might
sit
drag
on
it in.
That's what I thought. I'm like, all right, I would love that.
Actually, it shows great confidence. You're like, I'm going to be here for a while. So if you need a snack.
I've been kept waiting. That's what it's really about.
I've been kept waiting long enough for somebody to fall asleep in my audition, so I know all about it.
I had a horrific commercial audition when I first came out, and it was for Double Mint gum. You know, they show you the whole... They basically show you how to load a piece of gum in your mouth. You have to watch this video for like 10 minutes, and they show you how to put the piece of gum. It's like a stick.
Because it has to fold or make
Yeah, it's like a fold, so you have to wash it and sign in. And then you have to pair up with people. Well, at the time I went in for the audition, I just got over this like horrible breakup with this girl who I really liked. Like I was like just done. I was like, I couldn't eat a banana. I was just like, I was in love. I got totally destroyed. And like, I go in, and lo and behold,
Naturally.
who walks in the door for the Double Mint?
Your ex?
My ex. And she's like, hey. I'm like dying inside, you know? You just totally diss me, right? So now I'm like, she's like, okay, you got to pair up. Would you like to pair up with me? And they have to be like two people who put the gum in their mouth and kiss afterwards. So I'm like,
That's sadistic.
I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. So now we go into the room, and not only can I not get the piece of gum out of the wrapper, I'm like shaking.
Of course you are.
And then I had to kiss her, and I hit the cheek with the gum. It was a complete disaster. And she was like, oh my God.
See, this
like,
is why we're not
really?
together.
Like, she was like, I always book these spots, and I'm like, I'm standing there with like a broken piece of Double Mint gum, and she's like,
Sounds like
just
bitch, no offense.
burned. A trail behind me. It was pretty rough.
And did you get it?
No, I couldn't put the gum in my mouth. You had to load the gum a certain way with the video, and then you had to like say something to her and give her a kiss. Well, I was like, it was a mess.
Terrible.
That's brutal.
It was rough,
Terrible.
but it built character.
And now you have the story.
And now I have the
And
story.
you didn't need the commercial.
Yeah, I would love to.
Or you clearly didn't. Let's be clear. You clearly didn't need the girl.
I can't eat Doberman gum the same these days. I always look at it and I can't do it.
Oh.
Ginny, I have it down here that they call you the Admiral on set.
Oh, that's so funny.
What is that?
I'm supposed to ask of what army?
Oh, of the
What Navy?
of the fun army, because I really rather like a field trip. That's why they call me the Admiral, because I'm big on organizing large groups of people to go to go to events. I don't mean events like Hollywood events. I mean like Disneyland. Or
The concerts and things like that.
Oh yeah. I'm like no, I just bought like a lot of concert tickets, and like if like I will do anything I can to like keep people.
Got a cooler.
Yeah, right. We should team up.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. Or like a museum exhibit, or to play at the Science Center, or yeah.
That's fun.
You're like the social planner for the set.
I'm the social planner. Yeah.
That stuff's important, though.
I like that stuff. Well, because also I think I try to make up for the fact that like. I'm also really, really dorky, well, as has been made clear by the list of like field trips that I've taken in the past couple of months. And so it is less likely that you'll find me like dancing at night or, you know, out partying in any real way, because I'm probably going to go to bed early. So I like to try to make up for that, compensate for that by organizing field trips. And I think they just humor me by calling me the Admiral of the Fun Army. They're really just trying to make me feel better about my nerdy sort of inclinations.
You said that was important. What other fun things do you guys do on set to sort of liven it up?
Well, when we were shooting the pilot, we did a pub crawl. We had like cast and crew. We went around Gastown, did a big pub crawl. Pardon me? Oh yeah, no, actually, you know what? It was after our only night shoot. Okay. So it's like we worked until 7 a.m. I slept until 2, and then the pub crawl started around 3. So I don't know. I feel like that stuff's important.
Your diet's not that strict.
No. It was near the end. It was near the end of the. I couldn't have.
Nah, I'm mostly in church on the weekends. Yeah. In fact, that was you, wasn't it? Yeah, I've done a little bit of drinking on the weekends, but it is important to get the cast and crew together. You spend so many hours working together that I think a lot of times the inclination for everybody. Actually, I've never shot in LA, so I don't know how it is here, but I think the inclination for everybody is to just sort of
expand. Yeah, I mean, I'm not big in the whole planning. Let's all hoo-ha together on the weekends. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the time because it's like your second family. I mean, you're really working such long hours that you can't. It's like, do you want to go to the museum this weekend? I'm like, yeah.
But
really?
you also have kids.
I'd love to. Well, also I have a family and I have 2 children. But I remember Emily organized this thing the first season. We went to a really great restaurant, but it was a vegan restaurant, which, you know, I support the cause. I do vegan weeks for her. Like, I'm all vegan for a week just to support her, you know, cause. And I think I'm really proud of her for what she stands for. And we all went out to dinner at some restaurant out in the valley, and it was great. I mean, they had like little vegan Big Macs. I mean, it was fun. You know, the cast got together, and we're, you know.
You went to Madeline's.
That's where we went. Yeah, Madeline's. Yeah, it was great. It was a great little spot. But I think, you know, I think early on it sets boundaries. But I think you become a family, so it's a lot to take on when you have on the hours, you know.
That's what we do. A softball team in the summer and then a hockey team.
Fantasy football league, maybe.
Well, fantasy, but I just mean as a way to get people together. In the summer, we do. Actually, we're going to challenge you guys. I think this summer.
Yeah, we need to.
We should challenge you guys as well.
100%.
You have like an archery team.
Well, yeah.
I would do that.
We're archers. We've got archers.
I love
of course you have.
I'm an archer, and
I really like. Do you like it? I like archery a lot.
I love it.
Everybody holds tension right here, and to properly draw a bow, you have to relax this. So I actually found that it's helpful for acting. Because you just...
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Now, wait, speaking of, by the way, and I'm totally going to take us all the way back to what do you call it, Legolosing?
Legolosing.
Legolosing. I found on my show, since I'm the archer on my show, I was properly trained.
Yes.
And then was asked on set to change my form because true form is not always incredibly flattering on film. So
Exactly right.
I was asked to, for instance, pull away from my bow, right?
Yep.
And because they didn't like, for instance, by the way, Jennifer Lawrence has the most beautiful archery form I think I've ever seen.
I haven't seen the pilot.
I haven't seen your pilot yet. But you know, in Hunger Games, there's all those shots of her, like, of her holding the, you know, holding it up next to her nose, and that they did all these close-ups of her lips. If you saw Hunger Games, anyways, it's amazing, and it's beautiful. And it really was bothering them on our show for me to hold it correctly. So I kind of wonder if that, you know,
people might be getting mad at you. The biggest thing is that a lot of times you're drawing and knocking an arrow that's not there.
Yeah.
Obviously for CGI. So the big thing is that when you let it go, pardon me? Yeah. When you let it go, you just are supposed to open your hand and release it.
Yeah.
And the thing that they get mad about is when people go like that when they release it.
Oh,
because
sure.
that's so, you would never do that if you were actually shooting a bow and arrow, and that was the mistake.
Just draw a gun, my friend.
Me too. Want to talk about that? You do the pull
I can hold
back.
a 45 pretty cool.
Yeah. With a flashlight?
Yes, with a flashlight. Yeah, you got that down, right?
Too,
you know that whole system,
I
right?
hope I've got it right.
How to come in, see people behind doors.
How to load it.
Yeah.
What's the community like in Vancouver? Just, you know, the shows that are shooting there, do you guys hang out? Is there intershoot contact?
I hardly saw you
You
at
see
all.
each
And
other-
we've been friends for like years.
You
and
see
we've
each other
hardly...
a lot at the very beginning of the season, and then not at all through the middle of the season as everybody wears
Everybody's
down,
hours
and then a little bit
insane.
again at the end.
And everyone starts socializing again during pilot season when everyone starts showing up
When
at
the
the
new blood.
Slutton Hotel.
Oh God, the Sutton place. That was it was nuts, and there was
It becomes like a college campus.
yeah, the bar is just
The Girard.
Yeah, and
Girard on Berard.
and then there was one night where I think 4 or 5 different shows, all pilots, were just all at the same bar in Gastown. It was insane. We were playing pool against each other. I get super competitive.
I haven't done any shows. I've been blessed to do all of the shows I've done have been in Los Angeles.
That's also why you guys don't play on the weekends. Like, because when we're out there, there's only like,
of course,
you know, 5 of us who are on location permanently sort of up there, so it becomes...
I just wish they shot more in America. I really do. I support the... I mean, I wish, especially in Los Angeles, it's so ripe, and it's a shame that they don't have tax incentives and to go back to producing shows.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Exactly,
it really is.
right.
It is. It's I mean, I'm happy. I think it's great for the people that where they're shooting these shows, and even films, and they're shooting them in Bulgaria and stuff. I mean, I just think that we just need more jobs in America. I'm not going to get on a political standpoint right now. That's like the last thing I'm going to do. I mean, I love Vancouver. I think it's great. I really do. I think it's a beautiful area, you know, and Toronto, same way. I mean,
you know, I worked in Canada for 5 years before I came down here, and I never even set foot in British Columbia, which was a mystery, because that's where so much work is. And then, of course, I come down here, and now I'm moving back there.
Yeah, I didn't work in Vancouver. I worked in Toronto like something silly like 8 or 9 times in a row, and didn't work in Vancouver from '96 till Fringe.
But Fringe started out
in New York. It's a total.
Were you upset that it kind of moved?
I was upset. What upset me about Fringe moving was our show, like so many shows in the first year, was kind of a disaster, frankly. We were working crazy long hours, and in my opinion, nobody behind the camera ever gets enough credit on a TV show. It's the same on a film, but it's really particularly on a TV show. If that crew isn't good, that show doesn't get made. And it's their efficiency that allows us, collectively, to have the opportunity to put something on camera. And we just broke that crew. And we got picked up and they all got pink slips. So I just think that's not an honorable thing.
But the look, too, looked really great.
The look, I mean from a creative standpoint as well, Vancouver has been good, but I think New York was a more natural home for it. It was really, really sort of, though, I mean, we were shooting New York for Boston, which is the stupidest thing in the world. Like, the most
really
iconic skyline in the world, and we are always faced the opposite direction.
Yeah, that's where we're filming in New York.
Is that right? Yeah.
It's supposed to be New York.
Yes, exactly. So one of the reasons I chose to do the show, because it was shooting in New York, which is where I live.
So. A little jealous. I'm not gonna lie, a little jealous.
You're almost done, so you can be anywhere after
Exactly.
that.
I'll be Mr. Watson.
You never know.
Hey, you know what? You're a free agent.
I'm a free agent. Exactly.
I think
I'm Twittering it up right now.
Right now, pal.
So you're gonna go do Lucy's show, and I'm gonna do Dexter. And so that's gonna be awesome.
It's all worked out, actually.
It's all working out.
You guys had a little change in the showrunner this year. with
We didn't have a little change in the
Big
showrunner.
show.
We had a massive, it's been, as we have affectionately called it, a two-headed monster since the middle of the first season, and one of the guys didn't come back for the last 13.
So how has that changed things, or? You know?
Well, we have yet to see, because we're just about to get into it. I do think, I mean, it changes a lot. Jeff Pinkner, who's the guy who didn't come back, is part of the creative DNA of the show. But because our show is ending, I think it's less. We'll see as we get into it, but I think it's less dire than it would be if the show was sort of ongoing. I think Jeff and Joel had probably spoken quite a bit about where they thought the show was going to end up. So I think that the blueprint was already there, and because it's those 13 episodes, it gives, there's a clear ending to the story this year. So I'm sure Joel would like to have Jeff there to share the workload, because suddenly he's cranking out 13 by himself. But I think we're going to be okay.
How did you find out?
He told me. Jeff told me.
Okay.
It wasn't. I mean, it's one of those things. We're talking about creative content of shows and why, as actors, you want to take a role, but there's a business side of our business as well. And so it wasn't acrimonious with any of the actors on the show, but he's a man, he has a family, he has a mortgage, and to take a pay cut was not something that he wanted to do, I think. So fair enough. I mean, it's one of those things, right? At a certain point, you fulfilled your contract, and you have to make a decision that's not necessarily just based upon the creative content of whatever it is that you're doing, because life is long.
We had that on Angel, the second season. I think it was the end of the third. They changed the showrunner, and it's tough because you put a lot of time and confidence and trust in somebody who's running your show, and you share a lot of great ideas, and you really bond with the person, and then all of a sudden they're like gone, and you're like, wow, like it's tough.
Yeah.
It's it's a relationship that you have, and then it kind of shifts things up, but you'll make it work.
When you guys have disputes on your shows, what is it usually about?
Never happens.
And how do you resolve disputes?
Well, Emily and I just we'll show up, and if we're upset with each other, we tell each other right off the bat. It's really simple. It's really easy. We have high respect for each other. We've worked with an acting coach on all the seasons for our show. Every weekend we break. I mean, we're very committed to it, and we just look. We're upset with each other. I'm going to tell you. You know what? You're bothering me right now. Just leave me alone.
Well,
I
what are
can't
the types
deal
of things
with
that
you.
Bother you?
About what things you. I don't know. It's tough to kind of recall because it all happens in the moment. Whatever that situation might be. I don't really know. I can't pinpoint. Oh, she was doing this.
Yeah.
All I know is how we resolve it. Is that she knows what I'm feeling at all times. I know what she's feeling, and then we always come back and resolve it and just laugh at each other. So.
And these relationships are just that. They're relationships, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the times, whatever it is in the moment, it's not actually all that important, or it's not even really what's annoying in the moment. It might be hour 16, in which case everything's annoying.
Yeah, exactly.
You might not have got a good night's sleep.
Yeah, you're right, absolutely right.
It might be the middle of year 6, and you just don't want to hear that story again. So, I think it changes all the time. And I mean, that's actually about the healthiest version I've ever heard of it, because a lot of times things like that can sort of sit and fester, and it can destroy shows. I mean, I certainly have watched shows, and I've had dynamics that were less healthy, and it just poisons the well. You're there for so many hours, and I'm a big believer in a lot of the performance happens in the moments in between, and if two people are sort of standing at odds with each other in a way that isn't supported in the script, I think you can always feel that.
I think you can be good, but you can never be great.
Yeah.
When you're in that sort of situation, because I've seen, like I've been on shows where I know the dynamics between two people aren't super healthy, and you catch it just a little bit.
Yeah,
now you're looking at it with a trained eye because you know what's going on behind the scenes, and so someone watching it on television might not catch it, but
they feel it. You
feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah. Of course you do.
And I think, I mean, my little pet acting theory here, but I think kissing and laughing are the two most honest things you do on camera. It's really, really hard to bullshit a laugh, because you can just see it in a person's eyes, and that second before lips touch, if those people don't like each other, you know it, because there's that like.
How about you, Lucy? Do you think that the sort of on-set dynamic is the viewers are able to tell?
I don't know that viewers are able to tell, but I think as actors it's really awkward. I think it also starts with the numbers. Like if number one isn't happy and makes it hell for everyone else, it's pretty clear that everyone else is has to suffer for it, you know, and I think that's unfortunate. I think that if you are high up on the call sheet, you have an absolute responsibility to keep your drama and your criticism and your shit at home. Like, nobody cares that you know, got stuck in traffic and you showed up 2 hours late for set, or blah, 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 or, you know, like, that's your problem, but you kept everyone else, like 150 other people waiting. And, you know, I just feel like, for me, there has to be a certain amount of respect, and it's a profession, it's a business, and it's run like a tight ship. I mean, we get a call time, and if you know, for movies or for film, you know, and if you get a forced call, you come in at, you know, 8:58 a.m. You know, I mean, it's to the minute, you know, and if there's a cog that's kind of off and it's not really kind of working right, and you try to grease it and, you know, put the WD-40 and it's still not working, it affects the whole system. And the show might run for a long time, but it's a misery to be in that situation, and it's almost like it ages people in that situation. And I mean, for me, this is like a dream to be doing what I do, and I just feel like there's a gratitude that you have to bring with you, no matter how exhausted you are. And if you want to take a moment, go to your trailer, you know what I mean? Like, take a moment. But, you know, people have stormed off the set and, like, left and went home and never came back. You know what I mean? And there are a lot of other things that are happening, not just you. And so I think sometimes people forget, you know, that, you know, you're part of a team of people, and even if you're like number 1 or 2 on the call sheet, you really do have to represent that. And I think it makes it it's a working experience. And as you guys said, it's a family. And that's why I love that you're going to do these things and collectively have people come. I think that's fun, you know. And if you decide to go or not, that's your choice. Sure. But it's just having an option. And I love that, because for me, like, whoever I work with does become my family, you know? And for me, especially because my family was sort of like, what are you doing? I'm confused. Like, this is a crazy decision that you're making. And I never, you know, forget that it's important to keep my own personal life outside of what my working relationship is, you know? And
to create a positive working environment. I mean, part of being, as you say, high up on the call sheet is more so than in a film, because then it's sort of the director's job mostly to set the tone, but the actors set the tone for what that set's going to be. And if you were working with an asshole, the whole set, like you said, it just comes, it just sucks. And
the trickle-down effect is incredible.
It's fast, too.
It's really fast. In fact, it's much easier to destroy a set than it is to hold it together.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And it's also much harder to be a dick than it is to be a nice guy. But you have to work really hard.
You have to keep going at it.
But I gotta say, I'm impressed with the fortitude of some people, because, man.
I mean, God, I mean, it's like, you really need to go home
is strong.
and, like, just write a book on it.
Yeah, totally. It's like, you know, it must be exhausting being that miserable all the fucking time.
It's like, you're going to have some sort of...
Well, this issue of Hours...
As my grandmother says, it's going to give you cancer.
It's going to give you cancer.
Yeah.
This issue of Hours has come up lately. There's some trouble on this Lifetime movie, Liz and Dick, with Lindsay Lohan. Have you read about this?
Now, are they really honestly going to call a show Liz and Dick?
Yeah. No, it's a movie.
No, I know. But really... Somewhere on a poster, I'm going to be watching Liz and Dick.
Yeah. Wasn't there a Dick and Peter sometime?
Yeah, isn't there? Were none of these people never teenage boys?
Are you finishing it?
The question is,
are you finishing Liz and Dick?
No, are they finishing
They are finishing it, but there's been some controversy around it because of the hours that they supposedly have been working, which has some people saying that that's caused some of the problems.
We all work insane hours, all of us.
But that's, I mean, do you guys feel like those hours are fair?
We're protected, but I mean, I'm a big union girl. Yeah. We are truly protected by our very good now one union, and I think, without passing judgment on, without expressing what judgment I'm passing in my head on what happens on other people's sets, I think we all have a responsibility to, you know, if we are going to go into this, we need to be getting enough sleep and taking care of ourselves and showing up on time. And the hours we work are not inhuman. And I mean, they're hard, yes, but we've all chosen this because
we have the best job on the planet.
And we're clearly a grateful bunch, and also take our responsibility very seriously. And I don't think we can ever blame the industry for.
Well, I'm going to take a counterpoint to that, because I think it seems like, I mean, I know you fairly well at this point. We've met. I know you. it seems like everybody here is like, you know, conscientious professionals. I actually do, and so I would never say you can never leave a set. That's ridiculous. You can't show up late because the knock-on effect of that ruins a day.
Yep.
But I always think that it's a bit penny wise and pound foolish. If you're burning your crew at like 14, 16 hours a day for 7, 8, 9 months out of the year, which is not to say that it's not your responsibility to show up and work, but I do think that it's just diminishing returns. People are burnt out. And I certainly felt it in Dawson's Creek. I feel it in Fringe. The most crucial shows of the year are the last 3 or 4 as you're finishing up your arc, and everybody's dead.
But don't you feel, therefore, as an actor, the worst, because our crews always work longer hours than we do, and frankly work so much harder than most of it. And I'm not saying that about you, because you are far more present on your show than I am on mine. But like, my crew works harder than I will ever work, and so how dare I be too exhausted to show up for work?
But I also think I totally agree with both points. I mean, I was, after working Monday to Thursday, Friday rolled around, I knew we were going to work until Saturday morning, and I opted not to drive. I got a ride with the person who does my hair every day, because when you're driving an hour to go to Long Beach and then you're working insane hours and then you're expected to get on the road and drive back, that's irresponsible. So at some point your producers have to say, we owe you a 9th day to finish this schedule, because we care about you and what you say.
The crew, like if we're going to work a 16-hour day into 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning, you can't ask those people to drive home and deal with their families.
But like, the situation he's talking about is an actor who's not...
No. Look,
that's true.
I've been doing this for 23 years. I've never missed a day's work. I can probably count on one hand at times, other than maybe 5 or 10 minutes I've been late. You just don't do that.
I also, all the time, I think about, especially for Dexter, I think about the girl that I offered stuff from my cooler. About every time I get tired, and I'm like, she'd do it. You know, a million other people would come here and do it, so get up and do it. And you know what? To bring it all back to Comic-Con.
Nice.
Sorry, not about Comic-Con.
Sorry, but like, when you're out there and you're expensing yourself, when what you are offering feels expensive emotionally, those are the people that it matters to. So like, it's not for nothing. And like, that's what Comic-Con does. It reminds you that someone's watching. Someone's really, really watching.
I mean, look, I've been really fortunate to direct shows, and I really love directing, and it's a different shoe. When you're there with the crew and you're directing and the actor shows up, it's like, okay, they do their thing. It's like, you got to break down their periods and their time frames. And as a director, everything falls on the director. Everything. Doesn't matter if the actress or actor is late, it's your fault. It doesn't matter. You know, sure, you can be like, you know what, I wish this person would be more responsible, blah, blah, but you have to take that kind of heat. And I think that when you're working as a director and you have your crew behind you, you have to keep an upbeat person, a vibe about it. I mean, things are going to happen. Unfortunate things are going to happen, but you still have to be positive. I mean, why are we going to dwell on the negativity of somebody who overslept or is 2 hours late? Or it's nonsense. Find something else to shoot and be creative with it, and work with the person rather than be so against it. I think in today's media, they just exemplify it too much and they put it out there for barbecue.
But also, if you're a director and everything falls on you, hire people that you know are going to show up.
That's true.
On time.
But you don't know what you mean. Obviously, you're also looking at
your hands are tied a little bit.
Right.
Because
also, as you know, you want to create a cool character. I mean, we're talking about a character that could be completely out of their minds, and like that actor or actress has decided to cause problems because that's what the character would do. So you have to kind of work with that. I mean, you never know what you're going to be thrown, and I think that you have to be quick with that. And look, there's things that happen that are unfortunate, things that happen. You just kind of work with it, you know?
I think the problem now as well is that the media is so pervasive and invasive, and there's no room for mistakes. And I think that if you go out to buy a watermelon or a cup of coffee, you're just invaded. I mean, the invasion of it is, okay, I'm a public person, I get that, but this is crazy, especially if people have children, and I mean, there's a danger in it, and I think it also highlights how younger people who start in the business, who probably never had to like sit in a waiting room and have a cooler waiting by their feet, you know what I mean? Like, they somehow went straight into it, have gotten sort of infected with this idea that this is going to keep going and it's always going to keep flowing, and they don't understand the struggle behind it and the the gratitude or the relief once you get to that point. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm finally working in something that I love and I'm making money. It's sort of they get lost in it with whether it's with drugs or with fame. And it's sad when you start selling yourself that way and you lose perspective, and no one is telling you any different. They just keep feeding you the same shit because they're making their commission or their paycheck, or you know, they just their name is in the news. And now it is that whole Andy Warhol-esque
the 15 and you can't buy that back.
Idea that everyone wants to be in a reality show and everyone wants to be famous. Like, forget about being a doctor or having a real career. It's all about like having that moment and then writing a book and then God knows what.
But also, I fear a generation of I mean humans, but for what we're talking about here, actors who don't have an internal life, or don't have a desire to have an internal life that's away from cameras. That, you know, this is a job that we all do that allows us the opportunity to go do something pretty fun and fantastic, actually. But then, like all jobs, when it's done, it should be done. And that sort of, you know, the invasions of privacy, that goes both ways, right? Both coming from the outside, sort of media interest in this sort of cotton candy world where, does anybody really give a shit if Lindsay Lohan, you know, fell asleep or didn't show up for it? Does that matter?
No.
It doesn't really matter, right? So, and then she, of course, has fed that beast as well by inviting people into what we would all classify as your personal life.
That other side.
Yeah.
Right.
And once you sell that thing, you can't buy that back. There's
you can't get that's not the integrity and your dignity, the respect that you have. Like, is that what your legacy is going to be? That's not the legacy I choose. You know, yes, there are places that you can't avoid getting photographed at, Comic-Con, etc. That's the point.
But
if you go to the most popular restaurant in town, you know, you're going to get something that you know that's expected. But if you're kind of, you know, doing your own thing and suddenly somebody jumps out of the fucking bushes
and says, "Spank me."
Spank me.
And on that note, we will end. Thank you guys very much.
Yes, thank you so much.